Welcome to Stonewatch. This is my open spoiler discussion for Star Wars The Book of Boba Fett Ch4. And if you haven't already, please smash the subscribe button and click on that bell so you can notify future videos. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And yes, after watching Chapter 4, The Gathering Storm of The Book of Boba Fett, I gotta say, this one was pretty damn good. I mean, I liked it a lot more than I did the episode we got last week. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not saying that last week's episode was completely terrible. There was a lot in that I did like, but there was some stuff in there I just didn't really care for. I'm sorry, I didn't care for the Power Rangers. I don't care if it is a homage to Lucas or not. I mean, I understood the reference, but I still didn't care for their look. I mean, the characters still might actually end up being pretty damn cool once we get to know them better. But right now, they're just bratty kids as far as I'm concerned. They have really shiny bikes on a desert planet. That makes no sense. Now, we had a runtime of 49 minutes this week, which is 10 minutes longer than last week's chapter. Now, after you minus out the recap and the credits, you're still only looking at 35 minutes worth of story time. So, I don't know, man. I guess I'm just going to take whatever I can get at this point and just hope they don't get any shorter than chapter 1 and 3, which is only 39 minutes apiece. And after you minus out that other stuff, you're only looking at 25 minutes, right? And it's like as soon as you start getting into it, it's over. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I know I bitch about the runtime quite a bit, but I figure like the amount of money that they're spending on these episodes, they should be longer, especially when you're only getting like maybe 7, 8 episodes for a whole season. They should like make these longer. You know what I'm saying? Kevin Tartrowin is the director for the chapter this week. Now, I'll be quite honest with you. I didn't really know who this dude was. Even after looking at his filmography, I didn't really see much of it. I mean, he worked on Fame of 2009. I didn't see that movie. And then he worked on the Mortal Kombat Rebirth of 2010. I didn't see that movie either. I wasn't a big fan of the Mortal Kombat movie that came out back in 1995, to be quite honest with you. Then again, I wasn't a big fan of the game either. So, I mean, I saw the movie. I'm like, okay, this is kind of cool, but then it's kind of cheesy. I mean, and I didn't see any of the other Mortal Kombat movies. I'm just not a big, huge fan of those movies. I'm sorry. Now, he did work on a couple of shows that I did like. I mean, he worked on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Prison Break, The Flash. I mean, just to name a few, and I think he did the first episode of Iron Fist, and I don't care what anybody says, I like that show. Anyway, but he's worked on a lot of TV shows, so, you know what I'm saying? And he did a pretty good damn job in this episode, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I liked it. Now, just for a really quick rundown of what we got in this week's chapter. Now, we start off in the Banta tank, and you know what happens when we're in the Banta tank? It means we're going to get a flashback, kids. Now, in this flashback, we actually saw something I was wondering if they were going to address, and I didn't know if they actually were going to, and I was kind of happy that they did just a little bit, but then I think they kind of dragged it out a little bit more than it really needed to, because it was pretty much almost this whole entire episode was the flashback. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was kind of cool, but at the same time, it's just like, man, the whole thing, really? But anyway, we start off this flashback where Boba's trying to get his ship back out of Jabba's palace. Then he realizes that he can't do it all by himself. So while he's sitting by the campfire with the Bantha, and they're sharing a meal and what have you, and I thought this was actually kind of cool. I saw some people online kind of complaining about it. I liked it. I mean, you could definitely tell it was kind of like a puppet and everything, which is fine, but I liked it. I mean, I have a Malamute Husky myself personally, so I kind of can relate to having a big, huge, furry animal sit next to you while you're eating your meal, and they want a little bit what you got, you know what I mean? So I'm okay with that. I kind of like that scene. I mean, myself being a dog owner, I kind of got that feel out of it, so I was okay with that. And then he sees like the flashes going off, and then we hear Mandalorian's theme music in the background. So that's obviously this takes place roughly around the time frame of the Mandalorian season 1, chapter 5, The Gunslinger, where we meet Fennec Shand for the first time. So after he sees the flashes, though, he goes to see what's going on. And when he gets here, he finds Fennec Shand laying in the sands of Tatooine, like we saw at the end of chapter 5 from Mandalorian season 1. We heard the spurs and everything. He picks her up and he takes her over to this mod station, which is over in Mos Eisley. Now, I don't know, man. I mean, this whole modification thing, I'm not really sure. Now, I know there's like the guy from Bestman's got the thing on his head, but I always thought that was like, I don't know. This kind of takes me out of it when they go into something like this, because they had one guy, he had a computer chip on the side of his head. I mean, what is the purpose of that? Right? I mean, really? And then this guy here with the bug eyes and what have you, why would you do that? I mean, and then when he walks in with the body and then like the doctor says,
"Aren't you a little old to be here?"
What, you only can get droid parts if you're a young kid or something? That didn't make much sense to me. But then he plops down a lot of money and says, hey, she needs modification or she's going to die. Now, I thought this scene was kind of cool a little bit. I thought it went on maybe a little bit too long, and I thought it was interesting in how what they were replacing her parts were in her stomach after being a gut shot. But the thing is, I don't understand exactly how did she actually survive that long, right? I mean, how long was she laying on the sands of Tatooine after being shot in the gut? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think most people, if you get shot in the gut with a normal gun, if you were to be laying on the ground for like more than like a day or so, I don't think you're going to make it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't understand how she made it, to be quite honest with you, to be alive long enough to actually get modified. And how does she eat food, right? I mean, I don't know. I guess that's the topic for a whole nother video. Now, after Fennec Shand wakes up by the campfire, Boba Fett pretty much fills her in on what happened to her, left her dead with a gunshot wound, and I saved your life type thing. And she asks, who are you? And he goes, I am Boba Fett. Which, you know, he says that a lot in this series, and he even said to like some droid that's out of the comic books later on in this episode. I'm going, really? I mean, that scene was like something else, but I'll get to that in a minute. Now, he tells her like what's going on, like how like he needs her help to get his
fire spray
back out of Jabba's palace. Now she says like, you know, Bib Fortuna took it over. Why don't you just go and ask? He's like, I would, but I'm afraid I'm not going to like the answer. I'm not as intimidating without my armor. So she says, if I do this, we're even. And he's like, if that's what you wish. Now, I thought this was actually pretty cool when they actually go to infiltrate Jabba's palace, because she had this mini little probe droid in the butt of her gun. Now, here's another little plot hole in this series that I kind of wonder. How does she still have her rifle? You mean to tell me that between Din Djarin and that kid from Mandalorian Season 1, Chapter 5, that neither one of them picked up her rifle after she was laying on the ground? They just left the rifle? Really? Does that make much sense? Anyway, when the probe droid comes back and gives them the layout of the palace and shows them where all the guards are at, Fennec decides that they need to sneak in quiet-like so they can avoid any attention. Now, they go in through the sewer. Now, anybody who says anything about Chrysanthemum sneaking into the palace, he basically probably did the same thing. I mean, he's a bounty hunter and he's a Wookiee and they're fierce hunters. So him be able to sneak into a palace, which is not really a fortress because it was a monastery at one point. So I'm pretty sure it's not completely fortified. So sneaking in is probably not that all that hard to do. Speaking of which, as Fennec and Boba sneak around Jabba's palace, they go into the kitchen where we're treated with a couple droid cameos. Now, the first one is EV-929. Now, the first time we see this droid is in Return of the Jedi.
I have needs for you on the Master's sail barge.
Now, I thought he was also working at the bar in Chapter 5 of Mandalorian Season 1 in the cantina that we've seen in A New Hope. I thought that was the same droid, or at least the same model, but I thought it was voiced by Mark Hamill in that episode. I just thought that it was the same droid. Apparently not.
Hey, droid. I'm a hunter. I'm looking for some work.
Unfortunately, the bounty guild no longer operates from Tatooine.
I'm not looking for guild work.
I am afraid that does not improve your situation.
Now, the second droid is the COO Cook droid. Now, the first time we see this droid was in Attack of the Clones. Now, and the third droid that we see in this scene is a LPA something droid that appeared in the Clone Wars, and I think in a couple comic books too. Now, I have to say, I didn't really care for this scene all that too much. I mean, it seemed like straight out of a cartoon or what have you, and when Boba finally does get a hold of the thing, he's like, my name is Boba Fett. And then he shuts himself off. Now, we actually do see this droid again later on in this episode, so he kept him around. And when they finally make it to the hangar where the fire spray, aka Slave 1, is parked, and they fight off the first pair of guards of Gamorreans, and the alarm goes off, they seem to like hunker down behind a couple crates and wait for the other guys to show up. I don't understand why they just didn't run to the ship, you know what I'm saying, and fight from there. But when Boba finally does get in there, it doesn't seem like he remembers how to fly the damn thing, and he flies into the wall. She's asking, what are you doing? He's like, I can't see anything. There's no sensors that tell you what's going on. I thought that was kind of weird. And then they finally do make it out of the hangar. Now, when they do, he says he's got a couple scores or so. Now, I thought this next scene was pretty damn cool as he was coming up on the bikers, and he's just started taking them all out. I'm like, yeah, man, get them from that kid. Now, it also reminded me of the Rogue Squadron game that I used to play back in the day when I did strafing runs on civilians and stormtroopers. I mean, I couldn't help but think of that as he was sitting there taking these bikers out. Now, during one of the campfire talks that Boba and Fennec had, She said she didn't think that the bikers were able to take out the Tuscans all by themselves. So maybe they had some help by the Pikes. Maybe the Pikes had either gave them some personnel to help them out. Maybe they gave them some weaponry to help them out. Now, I think if they came up on the Tuscans fast enough on their speeder bikes with enough laser rifles and what have you, I think they could take them all out. I really do. After taking out the bikers, Boba flies Slave 1 over to the Sarlacc pit. Now, at first, when he came over here, I thought he was going to do another strafing run on the Sarlacc pit, kind of take revenge on that thing. But then when he flies right hovering over top of it, looking for his armor, I'm going, does he not remember he climbed out of that thing with his armor on? And then the Jawa showed up and stripped him clean and knocked his ass out? He didn't remember that? Really? I don't understand why he didn't remember that. But then again, he was kind of dazed when he first clawed out of there. And I thought after he burned his way out of there, I thought he killed that thing. But apparently he did not. As he was hovering over the Sarlacc pit looking for his armor, it reached up and tried to bring him, Fennec Shand, and Slave 1 in. Now, I thought this was pretty damn weird. I didn't think it'd actually be that strong, but apparently it is. But it took some quick thinking with Fennec Shand, where she released one of those seismic charges that we saw in Attack of the Clones. And finally killed that thing. After that, we're treated to another campfire talk with Fennec and Boba talking about him starting his own crime family. Now, she says, are you going to do it? Well, yeah, and I need brains and muscle, and you have both. She goes, I'm an independent contractor. I'm good on my own. He goes, I'll cut you in on the profits, and I will promise my life to protect yours. She decides to join him. And this is where we see the teaser trailer that we saw in the end of Mandalorian Season 2, where he takes out Bib Fortuna and takes his place on Jabba's throne. Now, this is where the flashback ends, and after he climbs out and he's getting cleaned up, a droid walks in and says, you're all done with your back-to treatments. Now, everybody online is speculating that it was kind of like an announcement saying we're all done with the flashbacks, at least for now, because I think I saw images of the production crew wearing shirts that said Book of Boba Fett Season 1. Now, I don't know whether or not this is an indication that there is going to be a Season 2, but I think this thing is so open-ended right now, I think they almost had to have a Season 2. Then Boba says he's going to go walk around town. Then we cut over to the sanctuary where we see Krrsantan kicking back and having a couple. Now, he looks like one of them guys that has a couple drinks and he's got to start a fight, because he's sitting there and you can definitely tell something is brewing and he's trying really, really hard not to get up and start causing trouble, because he's watching these Transoceans across from him drinking, gambling, having a good old time. Now, Transoceans is known for hunting down and capturing Wookiees and enslaving them, so you can definitely tell why this guy's got a problem. And he's trying really, really hard not to do anything, and then he just gets to that point, something snaps, he's like, forget it, and he gets up and he starts wrecking shop. He's throwing these guys all over the place, smashing them until he gets a hold of the last one. He's about ready to tear him limb for limb. Then Garza Flip, a.k.a. Flashdance, comes in and says, hey, whoa, you proved your point. Now, you were once a gladiator and you were a champion, but those days are over. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think this is a good way to motivate an angry Wookiee. Because remember what Han Solo said.
It's not wise to upset a Wookiee. It's because a droid don't pull people's arms out of their sockets when they lose.
You know what I mean? So, I don't know. But then she says, if you let this guy go, I'll erase your bar tab. You won't owe me a thing. Now, he thought about this for like a split second, and only a split second, because after that he said, forget it. And he just rips that guy's arm off and he walks out. Then he follows Krrsantan out and he offers him a job and he takes it. Then we cut over to their dinner scene with all the crime family sitting at the table like straight out of The Godfather.
I hope that we could come here and reason together.
Now, Boba tries to recruit them to his side at first. And when they say, no, we don't really want to do that, we don't want to go against the Pikes, and we're making money off the Pikes spice and stuff like that. He goes, okay, how about this? I'll take care of this problem, but you just promise me that you'll stay out of it. If the Pikes come to you for help, you won't help them, and you just stay out of my way. And they agreed to those terms. Now, as Fennec and Boba watch everybody leave after the dinner, Fennec asks, do you trust them? And Boba says, I trust them to do what they believe is in their own best interest. And Boba says, we need more muscle. And Fennec says,
credits can buy muscle, if you know where to look.
Everybody online is speculating that we might see Mandalorian in this show next week. Maybe. And if we do, is he going to come by himself? Is he just going to be him, or is he going to bring Bo-Katan and everybody else with him, right? because we know he's not going to have Grogu because Grogu is off with Luke. Now, with only 3 chapters left to go in this series, the question is who's going to direct what? Now, Bryce Dallas Howard was listed as one of the directors for this series, and she has yet to direct one. So I think, and this is just my prediction alone, that she's going to end up directing Chapter 5, and it's been confirmed that Dave Filoni wrote Chapter 6, so most likely he's going to end up directing Chapter 6, and I'm hoping that Jon Favreau will come in and he will direct Chapter 7 to close this thing out, and hopefully with a big bang. You know what I mean? I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So did you see the 4th chapter of the Book of Boba Fett? Let me know in the comments down below. Where does this one rank with you with all the chapters we've gotten so far? Let me know in the comments down below. And how do you feel about this series so far as a whole at this halfway point? Because we are now halfway through this series. We only have 3 chapters left to go, and this thing is done unless we get a second season, right? So I like this series. I hope it picks up the pace in these last 3 chapters. So let me know what you think in the comments down below.